Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Miss Danielson, and today we're going to go through a lesson on order of operations. Now, our objectives for this lesson is to know the acronym BEDMAS, or some people say BIDMAS or BODMAS, but what's important is what the letters stand for, and we also need to understand that performing calculations in a different order of operations can give us the wrong answer. And we always need to use the correct order of operation. That's BODMAS, BIDMAS, or BEDMAS, whether the question says it or not. Also, we should be able to perform basic mental calculations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, that is without a calculator. And I want you to be able to show all stages of your working step by step, because this is going to help us get set up for showing our working when we're solving algebraic questions. So let's get started. BEDMAS. What does it mean? What do the letters stand for? First we have B, and B stands for brackets. Not all calculations involve brackets, but if you do see brackets in a calculation, you need to remember to work out the calculation inside the brackets first. Next comes E, and E stands for exponents in BEDMAS. It stands for indices in BIDMAS, and power of or order of in BODMAS. An exponent, index, or power is simply the little number that is above a big base number, and that tells us how many times we're going to multiply the base by itself. Exponents, indices, and powers are all the same thing, which is why some people say BIDMAS, some people say BEDMAS, and some people say BODMAS. It doesn't matter as long as you follow the correct order. Next, we've got two letters which are both in yellow. That's because these two letters are two operations which happen at the same time. So next is division or multiplication. And I don't mean that they're going to happen simultaneously, but I mean they'll happen in the order that they appear in. So sometimes you'll say BEDMAS, sometimes you'll say BEMDAS, depending on the order of the calculation. Next, we've got two more letters, also in the same color, A and S. They stand for addition and subtraction. And once again, if you see several calculations in the same question, and there are some additions and some subtractions, you'll work them out in the order that you see them in the question. Again, we'll show some examples to make sure that that's clear. First, let's clarify brackets. Brackets are used in a calculation to separate some of the terms from some of the other terms. This helps us to clarify which values are being operated on and which ones are not. So let me show you an example. Here we can see 4 is being multiplied by, and in brackets I've got 2 plus 3. These brackets help to show me that I am going to multiply the 4 by the 2, and I'm going to multiply the 4 by the 3, but I'm not going to multiply the 4 by the minus 6. In order to do this correctly, I should always try to work out the calculation inside the bracket first. Sometimes brackets are used to show that this is a multiplication without needing a multiplication sign. I could have written it like this. When you've got a number directly in front of a bracket, that number is telling you how many of these brackets I want. So how much times this bracket. Again, we still need to work out what's inside the bracket before we do that multiplication. So I want 4 of this answer of 2 plus 3. Well, 2 plus 3, that's 5. So I want 4 of these 5s. That means 4 times 5. And of course, we need to remember that we're going to subtract 6 from that answer. So 4 times 5 minus 6. The next calculation that we're going to do is the multiplication, because in BEDMAS, multiplication definitely comes before subtraction. So 4 times 5 is 20. Don't forget, we still need to subtract the 6. 20 minus 6 is 14. Notice I've shown every step of my working, and although I didn't actually subtract the 6 until the last step, I always remember to write it down so I don't forget that that's something I still need to do. Let's try another example with brackets to make sure this is really clear. Here I've got two sets of brackets in this question, so I'll need to work out what's inside each of those brackets before I do the division I see between them. The result of the first bracket will then be divided by the result of the second bracket. So 5 plus 4, that's 9. And 6 minus 3, that's 3. So I'll put them in the same order as I've seen them above. That's 9 divided by 3. Now I can do that division. 9 divided by 3 is 3. We can show this in a different way as well. When you use fractions, you can clearly see that the numerator is separated from the denominator. So we don't need to use brackets to show that, but it works in the same way as brackets. First, we need to work out the value of the numerator, so 5 plus 4, and the value of the denominator, so 6 minus 3, and then remember a fraction is just a division of the top divided by the bottom. So that's going to be 9 over 3, which is 9 divided by 3, which is 3. Next, let's have a look at exponents, or powers, or indices. Again, they tell us how many times we need to repeatedly multiply the base number by itself. So here's an example. I've got 5 with an exponent, or index, of 2. We could also call this 5 to the power of 2, or 5 squared. And we're adding that to 2 with an exponent or index of 3. That's 5 squared plus 2 cubed, or 2 to the power of 3. In any case, what that means is we need to multiply 5 by another 5, so 2 5s multiplied together, and add that answer to 2, which is multiplied by itself 3 times, so 2 times 2 times 2. Now that I've expanded that out for you so you can clearly see what that means, I can go ahead and follow BEDMAS order of operations. I see some multiplications here, and I see an addition. I know the multiplications come before the addition, so I'll work out the product of 5 times 5, which is 25, and I work out the product of 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2, that's 8. 25 plus 8. Adding that together gives me 33. Next, let's have a look at multiplication and division. Why do they happen at the same time? It's because they're essentially the same operation. Let me show you an example. 4 divided by 2 is the same thing as 4 times a half. So when we see a multiplication and a division in a single calculation, we will perform them in the order that we see them in. Let me show you an example. Here I've got 5 plus 3 multiplied by 8, then divided by 6. So even though the order of operations for BEDMAS says D before M, we could just as easily say BEMDAS, although it sounds a bit funny, and do the multiplication first, because in this case the multiplication appears first in the calculation. We are not going to let addition jump in front of the multiplication and division, however. So working this out, I'll just write 5 and add to that the answer of 3 times 8. And then I remember I need to divide by 6. So that's 5 plus 24 divided by 6. Next, I'm not going to add yet. The next thing I want to do is divide. So I'm going to do 5 plus and the answer of 24 divided by 6. So 5 plus 4. Now there's only one operation left, an addition. So I'm going to go ahead and perform that addition. 5 plus 4 is 9. To finish off our acronym, we've got A and S, addition and subtraction. And they're in the same color because they happen at the same time, just like division and multiplication. They're essentially the same operation. Think about 7 minus 3, for example. It's the same thing as 7 plus negative 3. So the order that we perform our additions or subtractions in follows the same order that we see them in the calculation. So let's see another example. 7 minus 4 plus 3. Here I see the subtraction before the addition. So thinking about BEDMAS, I could actually consider this as BEMSA. Oh, it's difficult to say. So we say BEDMAS, although in this case the subtraction is going to come first. So 7 minus 4, that's 3. So we're going to do 3 plus the 3, which is 6. Note that this is different from 7 minus, and in brackets I've got 4 plus 3. In this case, even though I see the subtraction before the addition in this calculation, We can't ignore the brackets. We know brackets always comes first. So here we would do 7 minus, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So 7 minus 7, and that is 0. You see how order of operations is important? And we always follow BEDMAS order of operations, whether you're reminded to do so or not. Let's go through a few examples before I set you a practice exercise. For example 1, I want you to do 2 plus 3 times 4. Feel free to hit pause and try it before I take up the answer. Here am I going to do the addition or the multiplication first? We do the multiplication first, but we show every step of our working, so I'm still going to write the 2 plus down, but instead of writing 3 times 4, I'm going to write the answer of the multiplication, which is 12. Next, I'm going to do the addition. So 2 plus 12, that is 14, and that's my answer, 14. Example 2, here I've got some additions, some multiplications, and some divisions. What happens first here? Definitely not the addition. Do I do the multiplication first though, or the division first? As I can see, the multiplication comes first in the calculation, so I'll do the multiplication first. But I still write every stage of my working down. My calculation said to start with 2 plus, so I will write 2 plus. Then I will do the multiplication, and then I won't forget that I need to divide that answer by 2. 3 times 4, that answer is 12. So I'm doing 2 plus 12 divided by 2. Next, following BEDMAS order of operation, do I do the addition or the division first? I do the division first because D in BEDMAS comes before A. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So start with the 2, 2 plus, and I write my answer of the division, 6. Finally, there's only one operation left, so we can't get this wrong. 2 plus 6, that's going to be 8. Next, this example's got brackets in it. So although I would never do the addition before multiplication, this time I'm told to do what's inside the brackets first. I'm not just going to go ahead and write the answer down from that brackets, however. I'll still write the calculation as it's written above. When I get to the brackets, I'll write the answer of what we've got in the brackets. So 4 plus 2, that's 6. Next, I've got a calculation which has got a multiplication and a subtraction in it. Which comes first, multiplication or subtraction? M comes before S in BEDMAS, so we'll do the multiplication first. So I'll work out what 2 times 3 is, and that's 6. And I'll go ahead and write 6 minus 6. Don't forget to copy down the terms from above that we haven't yet worked out. 6 minus 6, there's only a subtraction left, so I'll go ahead and do that subtraction. 6 minus 6 is 0. Let's try another one. This time we've got brackets, and we have a little 2 up there. That's an exponent. So, starting with B, starting with the brackets, we'll work out what's inside those brackets, and that's an addition 4 plus 2, which is 6. But I'm not just going to write 6 down. I'm going to copy down all the terms from the calculation above. So 2 times 3 squared minus, and that's where I put my answer, minus 6. Next, do I do the multiplication, the exponent, or the subtraction? We do the exponent next. 2 times the answer of 3 squared minus 6. Remember, 3 squared means 3 times itself, so 2 3's multiply together, and 3 times 3 is 9, not 6. A lot of people make this mistake. So now we've got 2 times 9 minus 6. We've got a multiplication and a subtraction. What will we do first? M comes before S in BEDMAS, so first we'll do the multiplication. So 2 times 9, work that out, that's 18. So that's going to be 18. Don't forget, we still have to subtract the 6. So our next operation is clear. Subtract. 18 minus 6, that is 12. One last example before we go on to the practice exercise. This time, I'm giving you a fraction. Do not be afraid of fractions. We need to start using them because we're going to use them a lot in future, and it actually makes things easier. I can write this without the fraction if you prefer. All it means is that I need to solve what's in the top, and then divide it by the solution of the bottom. I could write it like this: 25 times 4 divided by 48 plus 2. But they're in brackets here, so I can clearly see that I need to work out the numerator and the denominator of this fraction before I do the division. So 25 times 4, that's 100. 48 plus 2, that's 50. So this is 100 divided by 50. 100 divided by 50, that's just 2. Before we get into the practice exercise, let's just do a quick recap. BEDMAS stands for brackets, and that always comes first. Then we have exponents or indices or powers. Then we've got division and multiplication, and the order that we do these in depends on the order that we see them in. And then we have addition and subtraction. Just like multiplication and division, we do these in the order that we see them in. Before you do the exercise, make sure you know what BEDMAS stands for. You know that fractions separate terms in a calculation in the same way that brackets do. So solve the top, solve the bottom, and then do the division. Also, you need to understand that performing calculations in the wrong order will give you the wrong answer. You need to use correct BEDMAS order of operations and perform these calculations mentally. No calculators here, please. And show all stages of your working, step by step. So that way, if you made a mistake, we can figure out where you went wrong in your order. Right, let's get started with the practice. Have a look at these 9 questions. Some of them may look the same to you, and maybe they are the same. Or maybe there's a slight difference in the order of operations. Go ahead and hit pause so you can copy these questions down, show your working step by step, and push play when you're ready to take up your answers. I hope you've had a chance to hit pause and do your working, because here come your answers. For question 1, 2, and 3, they all look very similar, but were any of them the same? Let's go through question 1. First, index, then division, then addition. For question 2, first the brackets, then the index, then the division. For question 3, first the brackets, but within the brackets we have an exponent. So first we'll do the exponent, then we'll do the brackets, then we'll do the addition. Notice that question 1 and question 3 give the same answers. That's because I put brackets around the 4 squared divided by 4 here, but that would have happened first anyways. First I square the 4, and then I divide by 4, and then I add the 36 on. So those brackets didn't make any difference in my order of operations. 1 is the same as 3. Next, questions 4, 5, and 6. Do any of these look familiar? Were any of your answers the same? Let's work through question 4. First, I need to work out the answer of the denominator because it's as if it's in brackets, and then do the division. So that's 100 divided by the answer of the denominator, which is 25. 100 divided by 25. Next, we have question 5, where we see a division first, then the multiplication, then the addition. Then in question 6, we'll do the division first, then the multiplication. So none of them were the same. Although question 4 and question 6 looked similar, in question 6 we would have needed brackets around these 5s to make it the same as this fraction in question 4. Question 7, 8, and 9, do any of these look similar? Are any of them the same? Let's go through question 7. First we'll do the brackets, then we'll do the division, then we'll do the addition. With question 8, remember, fractions are just like brackets. First we work out the top, which is 25, and we work out the bottom, which is 40. Then we do the division. Next, question 9. First we'll do the brackets, then we'll do the division, then we'll do the multiplication. So none of them were the same. So how did that go? And I'm not just asking if you got the answers right. I'm much more concerned with you being able to show the working. If you're struggling with that, or your working doesn't look the same as mine, you're going to need to let me know so we can clarify any doubts you might be having before we move on. If you found this fairly straightforward, and your working's looking similar to mine, that means that you're ready to move on to our algebraic lessons on simplifying expressions and rearranging and solving equations. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Keep practicing, and I'll see you soon.